Well, it looks like it's 6 o'clock on my watch, so we will go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, and good evening. My name is Victoria Ortiz, and I'm the Community Engagement Manager with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, or TRPA. And we are going to be reviewing environmental improvement program projects that will be happening on the North Shore. So hopefully you're in the right place. We do have some webinar guidelines here. So as you've probably seen already, everyone is muted. If you do have any questions throughout the presentation, we ask that you please use the Q&A box. And some of the questions might be summarized, but we will be sure to respond to them. And the recording and slides will be shared with all of the participants after the webinar. So next slide, please, April. Do you mind doing the next slide, April? Thank you. Great. So we've got a full lineup for you tonight, and we are going to be covering an overview of the Environmental Improvement Program and all of the projects that are described here. So we'll be covering multiple projects under each Environmental Improvement Program focus area. And after each focus area, we'll have 5 minutes or so to answer some of the questions that came through the Q&A, and then we'll move on to the next focus area. And if we can't get to all of the questions during that little focus area Q&A, then we will do so at the end of the presentation. So as you can see, we've got a lot of projects, so we will keep moving along. Next slide, please. So all of us are here tonight, and thank you for giving up an hour of your evening, because we live, work, and play on Lake Tahoe, America's second deepest lake. And when some people come to Lake Tahoe, they may see what looks like a beautiful and pristine lake, but in reality, Tahoe has faced many environmental threats over the years. Historic logging, development, and grazing all caused Lake Tahoe's famous clarity to plummet over the years. And fortunately, leaders rallied in the late 1990s to form the Lake Tahoe Environmental Improvement Program. So led by the TRPA in partnership with more than 80 organizations, the EIP was launched at the first Tahoe Summit with then President Bill Clinton and Vice President Al Gore. And this partnership works to achieve the environmental goals of the region. Next slide. Local, state, and federal government agencies, private entities, scientists, and the Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California have now collaborated for more than 25 years to restore the environmental health of Lake Tahoe. You see all of the private entities listed there, but I also want to point out that you as the public are a huge part of the success of the Environmental Improvement Program. So by doing things like implementing best management practices or making sure that your property has defensible space, even simple actions like picking up your dog poop and trash and participating in citizen science opportunities directly contributes to the health of Lake Tahoe. Next slide. And this landscape scale collaboration is considered the blueprint for Tahoe's climate resiliency and falls into 4 categories or focus areas. So tonight we're going to walk you through key projects happening on the North Shore in each of these categories. Next slide. So amazingly, in the last 25 years, partners have completed more than 830 projects, totaling nearly $3 billion. And this funding is shared by partners, and you can get a general sense of how we contribute to bringing these projects to fruition. Next slide. So we know that in Tahoe, our environment and our economy are inextricably linked. And so in 2020, we conducted an economic analysis that quantified some of the economic impacts of the EIP. So as you can see, for every $1 million in EIP spending, it generates $1.6 million in economic output. So the direct investment has resulted in nearly double the economic output to the region and supports about 1,700 jobs annually. Next slide. We are all committed to being as transparent as possible, which is why we've pulled together an interactive website that shows real-time data about all EIP projects and expenditures. So anything that you hear tonight, you can go to eip.laketahoeinfo.org and see all the information that you'd like about that. Next slide. So we're going to dive right in with watersheds and water quality, and this focuses on improving Lake Tahoe's world-famous clarity. So this includes restoring Tahoe's only native trout species and restoration projects like that in Incline Village. So with that, I will hand it to Christina Burnett with the Washoe Tribe.
Hello, my name is Christina Burnett, and I am an environmental scientist with the Washoe Environmental Protection Department. For this presentation, I will be going over a few things our department has been associated with when it comes to Lahontan cutthroat trout, also known as LCT. LCT is native to the state and it has inhabited the ancient Lake Lahontan and surrounding tributaries. Can I get you to change the next slide, please? And the next slide. So the reason why efforts are focused on LCT is because they are native to Lake Tahoe due to their decline in the cultural importance to the Washoe tribe. Next slide. The following slides will show the different things the Washoe tribe is assisting with. Next slide. Restocking LCT at Meeks Bay has been a great way to provide education and outreach to the public. This also helps the public to see the fish up close and participate in the release. The partnership between the tribe and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is a great way to work together for recovery efforts. Next slide. Electrofishing and gathering data are a great way to understand the different streams that LCT have traveled and what other species may be in the area that could conflict with native trout versus non-native species. This location was sampled at Angora Creek, which the tribe partnered with the USDA Forest Service to conduct an inventory and evaluation fish assessment. Next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. Electrofishing and gathering data are a great way to understand the different streams that LCT have traveled and what other species may be in the area. For this telemetry study with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, we focused on tracking LCT, which were pit tagged around Lake Forest. This study helped to determine where LCT stayed and if there were any predation or survivals during this study. LCT fish spawning has been a great way for the tribe to assist with fertilizing eggs at Lahontan National Fish Hatchery in Gardnerville. This is mostly a strain of Pilot Peak LCT, which is mostly stocked in Lake Tahoe and other water streams. Trout in the Classroom was a great success with University of California, Davis. This brought a lot of attention to students of all ages because it helped them to see the eggs up close and to watch them turn into fry. Students will later release them into areas within Lake Tahoe. The tribe does plan to do a few other things with different agencies, which are presented here. If there are any questions, I would be more than happy to try and answer them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christina. So if you do have any questions, just a reminder, you can throw those in the Q&A. And next up, we have Teresa Cody with the USDA Forest Service Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. I am Teresa Cody. I'm a hydrologist for the USDA Forest Service Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit. And today I'm going to talk to you about the Incline Meadow Restoration Project. If you could go ahead to the next slide, thanks. Okay, this is just an overview of the project area. The project area is located just outside of Incline Village on the North Shore off of Highway 431 near the Mount Rose Summit. Some of you might be familiar with the former Incline Lake property. The middle image here is the topography of the site. You can see an outline of the former Incline Lake and the main dam and secondary dam that impounded that water. You can also see the primary diversion ditch that was installed when the property was privately owned. It diverted water out of the Third Creek channel and into this sub-watershed. On the right-hand side is an aerial image of the same area. You can see after the lake had been drained, where the main and secondary dam were located. Go ahead to the next slide. So a little history, prior to 2011, when the Forest Service acquired the private property that formerly contained Incline Lake, the lake was drained and the buildings were removed from the site by the private property owner. Then in 2020, the Forest Service began the restoration actions on the property. First, the primary and secondary earthen dams were removed under contract. And the stream channel was temporarily placed in a rock-lined ditch through that former dam footprint. The following year in 2021, the Forest Service went out and restored the primary channel and created a floodplain where the main dam previously was located. And then the following year in 2022, we constructed a boardwalk trail over the newly restored floodplain and channel. And last year we did most of the upland restoration work where the former building sites were located and various disturbed areas in the uplands. We also started some of the meadow restoration work last year and finished the ditch backfilling operations. I'm sorry, I neglected to mention that. In 2021, we backfilled the majority of the diversion ditch from Third Creek. In some cases, in some places, that ditch was 10 feet deep. It was quite a large diversion that is now completely backfilled and restored. Go ahead to the next slide. So here's just a couple of photos of the former lake area. On the left is a picture from 2013, just a couple years after the lake was drained. And then on the right, you can see in 2021, the vegetation has responded very well to the lake being drained. The meadow is the site of many springs and seeps and various surface water features. So there's a lot of wetness in the meadow and the vegetation has responded very well. Go ahead to the next slide. So what are we planning to do this season? On the left, you can see a picture of two large head cuts that have formed on the channel through Incline Meadow. A head cut is a steep drop in elevation in the channel bed, and the stream channel downstream of these head cuts is deeply incised. It's a really deep channel, and that effectively drains the meadow. So our intention is to backfill the gully channel, the deep incised section of channel, stabilize the head cuts that have formed since the lake was drained. There are various berms and unnatural high points in the meadow, presumably from before the lake was filled, that are interrupting the surface water hydrology. They're keeping floodwaters and snow melt waters from spreading across the whole floodplain. So we're going to remove those berms and actually use that material for backfilling the gully. We also plan on installing a series of beaver dam analogs, which are small structures in the channel that will further encourage flooding and overbanking of the channel, and some small wood structures in addition to the beaver dam analogs. All of these activities will increase meadow wetness and flood frequency and surface water connectivity across the meadow. We also plan to complete the trail connection to the boardwalk that was previously constructed. We'll decommission all of the staging areas and remove all of the construction materials from the site, as this will be the final phase of the meadow restoration project. We plan on about 8 weeks for implementation of this project this season. We'll be out there for the months of August and September. Go ahead to the next slide. Here I just share a couple of pictures of the floodplain that was constructed a couple years ago where the former dam was located, and the boardwalk that we built the following year. Be happy to answer any questions you have. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Teresa. If anyone has any questions for Teresa about the Incline Dam restoration or for Christina about the Lahontan Cutthroat Trout introduction, just throw those into the Q&A. I haven't seen any questions come in so far, so we will keep moving on. So next slide, we will talk about forest health and how we are protecting communities from damaging wildfire while also restoring ecosystem health and enhancing wildlife habitat. So next up, we have Tia Rancourt with the North Lake Tahoe Fire.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well and enjoying the presentation. So this section talks about the benefits of prescribed fire as a tool for wildfire mitigation and forest health. Can we have the next slide? We can just skip to the next one, actually. So there are many advantages. We have the main ones listed here, talking about prescribed fire operations, return the natural low intensity fire to a fire dependent ecosystem. So basically our local forests here have evolved with fire. This is what the Native Americans did prior to the 1800s, and we're just reintroducing that practice. It's got a lot of benefits for our forests here. Namely the interval return rate. So when you conduct a prescribed fire, the return rate can be anywhere from 17 to 23 years, compared to, say, for example, when you do hand thinning and mechanical thinning and such, that might be a shorter return rate interval, such as like 7 years. So the benefits are we have a longer return rate, so that's really, really good. Also, it's just really the most effective and efficient, cost-effective, productive, quickest way to do this work. So that's really the greatest. Those are kind of the main points we wanted to hit there. And then the next slide. So this one talks about the advantages of utilizing prescribed fire as a wildfire mitigation and forest health treatment. So forests are dependent on fire, like we were just talking about. It greatly helps the nutrient cycling system. It allows for and supports for better water availability, greater soil and carbon retention. It helps the ecosystem diversity. So it helps increase and promote different rates of growth, creating different opportunities for wildlife and such. The other great benefit, although it's one of the things that us humans aren't really crazy about, the smoke, the short-term smoke impact that we often don't enjoy, that actually has a detrimental effect on the dwarf mistletoe, which when trees are weakened by dwarf mistletoe, they're at greater risk for bark beetle, and that's a bad thing. So there's just a lot of benefits here. There's foraging opportunities for some of the flickers and woodpecker species. It creates nesting habitats, and it opens up the habitat just in general, the forest floor, for wildlife benefit. Next slide. So this is a photo of a prescribed burn that we did last fall in the Wood Creek area. As you can see, the photo on the left has got a lot of dead and down on the forest floor. There's a lot of ladder fuels. There's crowded trees occurring. And then when you look at the photo to the right, you've got really a nice clean forest floor. You've got limbed up ladder fuels. It's got more open space for the forest life to wildlife to habitat to recreate and just live in, right? So it's just a lot more spacious and healthy, a better spacing overall. Next slide. Oh, sorry. So this slide talks about what we plan to do this year. We were able to do, again, 34 acres last fall. narrow burn window last year, so we only had two burns. This year we have an aggressive plan. We'll see what the weather allows and such, but we've got 39 acres that we're going to try to do on IVGID land. It's in the area what we call the halo. So we've got a halo that's about a 500-foot swath from the east to the west end of our district. And so we hope that we will be able to make this happen this fall. We will see. Next slide, please. So this is over on the California side with our neighbors, North Tahoe Fire, and all the wonderful agencies to the west of us. We've got California Tahoe Conservancy, State Parks, North Tahoe Fire, Forest Service, and then Cal Fire and Tahoe Douglas did some work over there assisting with pile burning. They were able to conduct 60 acres last fall, which is great, in the Burton Creek State Park area. The area in the red you can see on the map, that's where the prescribed fire burn area took place. Next slide, please. So as we all know, the barriers to prescribed fire burning is it's the weather. We've got usually a narrow burn window. It can be anywhere from 10 days to, you know, maybe a month or two if we're lucky. It just depends. The smoke impacts, we work really, really hard with our air quality agencies and surrounding other agencies to make sure that we fall in what we kind of have a go, no-go checklist. And we have all these things that we have to go through before we even think about conducting a prescribed burn. So, and then the personnel requirements, you know, it takes a lot of folks to make these burns go safely and successfully. So those are always the challenges. And I think we have one more slide. Next slide, please. And then we just wanted to talk about fire adapted communities. This is just a great effort. Fire adapted communities focuses on community defensible space programs within our neighborhoods and supports fuel reduction and wildfire mitigation in the wildland urban interface. We talk about fire reduction and prevention capacity within the Tahoe Basin. We talk to homeowners, we go to homeowners meetings. We have leaders in our communities throughout the Tahoe Basin, and they work with FireWise as well. So that's just a really great effort, and we hope to continue growing those efforts. I think that's it that we have for our presentation in this section. If anybody has any questions.
Thanks, Tia. And just one more reminder that if you ever have any questions about what projects are happening in your area, or if you see some smoke and you're wondering if that's coming from a prescribed fire, you can always go to tahoelivingwithfire.org or .com. Either one works, and it'll take you to this prescribed fire map where you can see all of the projects, fuel reduction projects and prescribed fires that might be happening in the basin. Well, I'm not seeing too many questions come through the Q&A, so I just want to give one more reminder to folks that that's a lot of information that we're throwing at you tonight. And if you do have any questions, you are more than welcome to throw that in the question and answer, that Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and our wonderful panelists will be sure to respond to it. So next up, we are going to be talking about sustainable recreation and transportation. And as many of you know, since summer is around the corner, millions of people visit Tahoe every year, and that drives our $5 billion annual economy. And hopefully many of you tonight, like me, regularly enjoy our growing paved trail network, which makes it safer for cyclists, pedestrians, even drivers to get around town. And we are going to hear tonight from both Tahoe City Public Utility District and Placer County about the improvements to our roadways and bikeways that are coming up in the near future, followed by a presentation about the Sand Harbor Master Plan. So we will start with Celeste from Tahoe City Public Utility District.
Thanks, Victoria. Hi, everyone. My name is Celeste Havener. I am a civil engineer with Tahoe City PUD, and today I'll be talking about the multi-use trail system reconstruction and safety enhancement project. Next slide, please. So first, I just want to start with an overview of the trail system. TCPUD operates and maintains 23 miles of trail stretching from Dollar Point down to Tahoe and along the Truckee River. The trails were built as far back as 1973, and we see over 210,000 year-round trail users. In 2023, we conducted both a pavement conditions assessment and a hazards assessment so we could better understand the conditions of our trail system. And with those assessments, we developed a 5-year capital improvement plan for rehabilitating the trails. Next slide. So the figure on this slide shows the various segments of our trail system. And then you can see on the left our planned rehabilitation in the upcoming years. So in our capital improvement plan, we identified 13 miles of trail that require rehabilitation in the upcoming years. And that project in total is estimated at $11 million. Now, when I say rehabilitation, I mean a few things. First is enhancing trail safety. So that could be green contrast paint, installing delineators between the trail and the roadway, and additional signage. Rehabilitation also means pavement restoration. So that's pavement patching, sealing, and addressing any root intrusion that may be impacting the trail. And then on the most extreme end, rehabilitation means actually repaving the trail and potentially realigning the trail. Next slide. So this summer, we will be constructing the North Shore Trail in Tahoe City. So this is about 2 miles of trail that will be rehabilitating from Dollar Point down to the Lighthouse Center where the existing Safeway is. The photos on this slide show some of the issues that we will be addressing with the rehabilitation this year. And most notably, we will actually be realigning the trail where it crosses the Lake Forest Road near the UC Davis Field Station. This will improve visibility for drivers who are turning onto Lake Forest Road and overall improve the safety for trail users crossing the road there. Construction should be starting at the end of this month and going through the construction season, so all the way to October. However, we won't be doing any construction around the 4th of July holiday. We understand that's a really busy time of year for the trail, so we'll be leaving it fully open to the public. And during construction, we will only be working on a small segment at a time, so trail users can still access the trail, and we'll be providing detours for you to safely navigate around the construction area. Lastly, I do just want to thank our funding partner, Placer County and NTCA. This project was partially funded by the TOT TBID program, and we are very grateful for that. Next slide. So that's all I have for you today. If you do have any more questions about the project this summer, upcoming years, or our trail system in general, please feel free to reach out to me. And with that, I'll pass it on to Placer County.
Perfect. Thank you, Celeste. And next up, as she mentioned, we have Andy with Placer County.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Andy Duncan. I'm with Placer County Department of Public Works, and I'll be talking about our North Tahoe Shared Use Trail Segment 1 tonight. Next slide, please. All right. So first of all, the North Tahoe Shared Use Trail, it's the overall effort that we have to try and get a paved shared use trail from Tahoe City all the way over to Kings Beach. So the Tahoe City PUD already has a paved section of trail up to Dollar Point from Tahoe City. And then the next segment up, kind of towards the bottom left there, the green segment of trail is the Dollar Creek Trail. We completed that a few years back. And the next one above that is segment 3. We're also calling that the Flick Point 2 project. That section of trail is in the preliminary design stage at the moment. And then you can see the yellow dotted line, which is segment 2. That's another future segment of trail. That one's just in the conceptual phase at the moment. And then segment 1 is above that, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight in more detail here. So that segment takes the trail from the North Tahoe Regional Park over to Carnelian Bay. Next slide, please. Right, but first, before we get into the trail details, just generally speaking, the goals and objectives of this effort are to mainly to implement a component of TRPA's active transportation plan, active transportation being any method of travel that doesn't rely on automobiles. We're trying to encourage alternative travel modes so that vehicle miles traveled can be reduced in the basin. We want to improve connectivity between North Tahoe communities. We're trying to improve community vitality and economic health. And then, of course, the whole title of this segment of the presentation, we're trying to provide more opportunities for sustainable recreation and mitigation of tourism impacts. And I wanted to mention here, too, that we do have a lot of existing dirt roads and single track trails in our area, but these paved trails provide accessible recreation opportunities. You know, not everybody has the ability to use those single track or dirt road trails. So the paved trails allow folks that might be in a wheelchair or things like that to recreate in the outdoors. So next slide, please. All right, so here's a detail of the North Tahoe Trail Segment 1. You can see in the bottom right inset there, we're pretty much right in the middle of the North Lake Tahoe area, right above the regional park. And so there's a paved trail segment, the Pine Drop Trail, which takes users from Highway 267 over to the regional park at the east side of the regional park. And then that's where our trail will join in. And you can see there's a few switchbacks heading up the hillside. And then the trail alignment drops down below the Kingswood neighborhood and around. There's that big kind of a rocky scree slope that overlooks Agate Bay. And the trail drops below that and then connects over to Carnelian Bay Avenue. All right, next slide, please. So where we're at right now, we have completed the environmental document and preliminary design for the trail. We're just starting the full comprehensive design effort right now. That's going to continue through this year, and we're hoping to have that done in spring of 2025. Then, assuming we're able to get the construction funding we need, we're going to continue on with construction in 2025. We expect it to take 2 seasons, so we should be done by the fall of 2026. And then I wanted to mention also, we've got those 2 logos at the bottom, the TOT T-bid dollars at work. We were able to get funding through that program as administered by the North Tahoe Community Alliance. And then also we have gotten California Tahoe Conservancy funding as well. So they're really enabling this project to move forward, and we're definitely grateful for that. All right, next slide, please. And that's what I have for tonight. So there's the project website on the screen there, and I've got my contact info also. Feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. You're also welcome to come by our office. We're next to Lonza's near Safeway in Kings Beach, and we'd love to hear if you have any questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Andy. Once again, if you do have any questions, feel free to pop those in the Q&A. But next up, we have Kevin Frommers with the Nevada Tahoe Resource Team. Take it away, Kevin.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, Victoria. My name is Kevin Frommers. I'm the program manager for the Nevada Tahoe Resource Team. Our job is to implement environmental improvement projects at Lake Tahoe. Next slide, please. For Sand Harbor, it's an interesting park because it was actually designed in the 1970s, like a lot of our parks in the area. And like a lot of parks, the original capacity of the park was designed around the parking that was available to the public. Most of the original design, such as parking lots, boat ramp, group area, and the restroom locations are from that original design that was completed in the early 1970s. In the early 2000s, a new visitor center, restaurant, and stage were added to the park. And then in 2016, restroom facilities were upgraded at several of the locations throughout the park. Next slide, please. At the beginning of the early 2000s, visitation started to climb. And by 2010, the park began to recognize that visitation had increased to an unsustainable level for the park. At that point, they completed a visitation study that determined how many visitors were actually using the park and during what seasons, and utilized that information to start a series of management actions that were intended to be short-term. However, since that time, visitation has continued to climb as more and more people are discovering the outdoor recreation that Tahoe has to offer. 2018 to 2019 was one of the highest visitation years for the park, which was 40% higher than when that visitor forecast study was completed in 2011. That basically amounted to approximately 171,000 additional visitors per season. And that visitation is based on vehicle traffic and does not include the addition of the East Shore Trail. Next slide, please. So beginning in 2011, the park, with this information from the visitor study, began a series of short-term management actions that were intended to reduce park visitation. Some of those more notable ones was the locking of gates when the parking lots filled to capacity to try to reduce the pressure on Highway 28. At the same time, they added the East Shore Express, which was intended to refill the park during those extended park closures. However, as the visitation continued to climb, some additional measures were needed, such as extending the park closure from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. and only filling the parking lots to 60%. Yet, despite those best efforts, park visitation remained stable or higher than anticipated or desired. Next slide, please. A future management action is being considered, which is reservations. I'm not actually in a position to represent Nevada State Parks on that, so I'd recommend contacting the state park if you have any questions. Their contact information is there and will be on my last slide. Next slide, please. So a few years ago, this Nevada Tahoe resource team became interested in helping solve the long-term environmental impacts that are occurring at Lake Tahoe, and we recommended the completion of a Sand Harbor master plan update. The intent of the master plan is to recognize that Sand Harbor is a popular recreation site within the Nevada State Park system and the greater Lake Tahoe area. We recognize that the park needed to be redesigned and a focus made to shift it from this isolated park that required only solely on vehicle traffic and actually look at the opportunities coming from the East Shore Trail improvements, such as the mass transit and the East Shore Trail. And as a result, we have the opportunity in front of us to do a complete redesign of the park, focusing on improving the recreation experience, potentially expanding the capacity to allow more visitors to enjoy Sand Harbor throughout the year without degrading the visitor experience. We're considering as many alternatives as possible, such as mass transit, and are looking forward to hopefully solving the problems of the master plan effort. Currently, the master plan is in the resource assessment stage. Next slide, please. So currently we've, Nevada State Parks and the Nevada Tahoe Resource Team are under contract with Design Workshop, who is leading the master plan effort. The planning team is currently assessing current park conditions, everything from facilities to utilities, visitation, and updating that visitor report that was prepared in 2010 to get current visitation data and information. Throughout the summer, we're going to start to reach out to the general public to start to understand the desired conditions that you have for the future of Sand Harbor State Park, and documenting those as we start to develop a new design for Sand Harbor. We hope to have a public-facing site up in the near future, which will keep you up to date with information on the current status of the plan, new information as it comes out, and also the opportunity to sign up for updates and for future meetings. We anticipate the final plan will be completed in January 2025. And then our intention is to begin construction drawings of the plan in the 2026-2027 period, which aligns with the Nevada legislature's funding for our program, with hopeful construction by the end of the decade of a new facility at Sand Harbor. Next slide, please. That's all I have for now, but be glad to take any questions if there are any out there. And then my contact information is there if anybody has any additional questions at a later date.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. It's a quiet bunch tonight, so I don't see any questions in the Q&A so far, but again, that is always open to you all. But we are coming to our last focus area. So next slide, if you would, April. And that is science stewardship and accountability. So in Tahoe, everyone has a role to play in protecting this area, and science really leads the way to help guide policy decisions for all of our decision makers. So next up, we have Leah from Sierra Nevada Alliance, who will be talking about the Lake Tahoe Ambassador Program, followed by Mackenzie Koch with TRPA, who's going to be talking about how everyone can help protect Tahoe from aquatic invasive species. Take it away.
Hi, my name is Leah Gleason. I'm the program director for the Lake Tahoe Ambassadors, and I work with Sierra Nevada Alliance. Next slide, please. So this is a summer environmental stewardship program for high school and early college students. You can see some of the program details here, but the primary focus is that local students learn how to share environmental messages with the public, and they receive trainings and additional skills building opportunities to learn how to do so. And this is designed as a workforce development opportunity, the first step for people who may have no experience in the sciences or in any kind of environmental stewardship position, to inspire our local youth to care about the environment and learn what they can do about it, and hopefully return as workforce to protect our beautiful region. And new for this program for 2024, we're also instituting a term-long science research project where they will be paired with a mentor. And so the data that they're collecting at the sites that they work at will actually be turned into a completed research project they can add to their resume. Next, please. And we're trying to add benefit to our region with the program. Obviously, the students become stewards. And so in some of our post-program research, we've seen improved visitor and resident awareness because of the messages that these youth are distributing to people. The visitor information experience is improved because they have someone there directing them where to go or what to do with their trash, things like that. And we've been excited to be able to collaborate between state and local organizations who all kind of share this focus and want to protect the region, but are looking for more workforce or ways to spread those messages. And that is one of the benefits that the ambassadors provide. Next, please. Just a little bit to touch on how the program benefits our participants. Obviously, like I said, we want to provide a low-risk first work experience for local youth. So without really knowing anything about the environment, except that they maybe want to work outside and they like our lake or they like our trails, we teach them how to do something about it. And we've seen increased confidence, capability in communications, sciences, and more, and we are providing them an opportunity to enter the fastest growing career field in the nation. Just a little quote from one of our participants. They said that the most impactful thing by far was talking to people. So they have this care for the environment. They want to figure out what to do about it. We teach them how to actually talk to people about what they can do, which is proven to help produce behavior change more than just signage or more passive forms of communication. Next, please. And then I'm just going to leave you with a few stats. We're going into the 4th year of the program. We're excited to have grown from 1 host site to 18 last year and continuing to build. We spent over 3,000 hours becoming stewards of the Tahoe region, talking to people, spreading messages, and collected over 1,200 visitor surveys last year. And we are hiring now, so you can check out our website there. Next, please. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Leah. Next up, we have Mackenzie.
Hello all, thank you guys so much for sticking it out to the last presentation and listening through all of the updates that we have happening here on the North Shore. My name is Mackenzie and I do aquatic invasive species outreach for the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. And Tahoe Keepers is my program that I want to talk to you guys about today. It's a community stewardship program that teaches paddlers, kayakers, anglers, pretty much anybody that touches the beach how to clean, drain, and dry. And it's a free, easy way to protect Lake Tahoe from invasive species. What you see in front of you is the process. It starts with a 5-minute video, which we are recently excited to announce that we've revamped it and it will be coming out in the following weeks. So after this 5-minute video, you take a short quiz, and then you can collect a sticker from one of our watercraft inspection stations that you can display on whatever paddlecraft or beach toys that you possess. And this is a great way to signal to ramp staff and park staff that you're an educated beachgoer and you know how to protect the lake from invasive species by following our simple steps, which are on the next slide. So the 3 simple steps that Tahoe Keepers have to do is clean, drain, and dry their watercraft. And this is getting down and dirty, removing the dirt and debris, animals, plants, draining, so tipping your kayak over, dumping out your buckets from fishing, and drying it with a towel. So take 5 extra minutes of your day, and ensuring that there's no plants, animals, mud, or water on your vessel is the easiest way to prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species. Next slide, please. So the reason that this is so important are because of all the devastating effects that aquatic invasive species can have on recreation and the economy, and just the beauty of Lake Tahoe. On the left, you'll see the invasive species that are currently in Lake Tahoe, including the invasive New Zealand mud snail that was recently discovered last September. And then on the right, you'll see zebra and quagga mussels, which are devastating little mollusks that we are desperately trying to keep out of Lake Tahoe. The reasons that they can harm, or the ways that in which they can harm Lake Tahoe, are through decreasing water clarity. I know that one of the reasons I love this lake is because of its one-of-a-kind pristine blue water. And if we lose that water clarity, we will also be impacting local economies, and these species can also outcompete native species like the trout that we mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, and they reproduce rapidly. So once they are introduced, they're very hard to control. Next one. Some other things that you're going to want to keep your eye out for on the North Shore that are related to our Tahoe Keepers program are our newly trained rovers. They are going to be 2 individuals that are going from beach to beach, according to popularity, to educate beachgoers on these clean, drain, dry practices and encourage visitors to become a Tahoe keeper. You can also see the solar-powered machine. It's going to be starting out its tour around the lake at Sand Harbor this year, and then there's another one over at Meeks Bay on the West Shore. And this has high pressure air that's going to help individuals clean, drain, and dry their watercraft really quickly before they head right into the lake. And finally, we are launching a new program, which is the Tahoe Keeper Fleet, which is an opportunity for rental businesses all around the lake to be a part of this messaging. And they ensure that their rental vessels do not spread aquatic invasive species. So if you are a business owner that rents any sort of paddlecraft, be sure to let us know and we'll get you roped into this program. And finally, our last slide. What everybody can do today that's at this meeting is become a Tahoe Keeper. So you'll go to tahoekeepers.org and be sure to follow us on social. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. There's a QR code for our Instagram right there. It's all at the handle Tahoe Keepers for updates about the program as it progresses throughout this year. Thank you guys so much for all becoming a Tahoe Keeper.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Hopefully we've got a lot of Tahoe keepers listening in tonight. And we have come to the end of our presentation. So we want to just say thank you to everyone who has listened so far. I know we had one question come in, and that question is going to be for Kevin. Yep, thanks for popping up, Kevin. The question is, are there any plans for extending the East Shore Trail further south? And I did just see a hand go up. Just as a reminder, we're not unmuting people, but if you put your questions in the Q&A, we'd be happy to get to those.
Yeah, great question on the continuation of the East Shore Trail. The plan is, yes, to continue the East Shore Trail from Sand Harbor down to Spooner Summit in the near term. Eventually, the grand plan was to connect Crystal Bay all the way to State Line in the south. That's the grand plan for the program. But right now, efforts are underway to design that next section of trail. Currently, they're constructing parking lots at Chimney Beach and eventually at Secret Cove or Secret Harbor, and eventually an additional parking lot at the Spooner Summit to address some of the parking issues along Highway 28. That's kind of the first phase of the project, and then there is a series of segments or future phases for that trail that'll be developed over time. And then as part of the Sand Harbor Master Plan, we do intend to improve how the East Shore Trail enters Sand Harbor State Park so it doesn't dead end into a busy boat ramp.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. I'm not seeing any other questions come through the chat, but again, if you do have any, please put them into the Q&A. We will stick around here for another minute or so just to see if any questions do come through. And in the meantime, hopefully you all learned some good information tonight about what to expect in your own backyard on the North Shore of Lake Tahoe. If you know of anybody who might be interested in becoming a Lake Tahoe ambassador, perhaps a high school student or college student who's looking for a summer position where they really get some hands-on experience, I encourage you to encourage them to become a Lake Tahoe ambassador. And hopefully everyone here tonight will also become a Tahoe keeper. Okay. Well, again, I haven't seen any other questions come in through the Q&A. We will be sending out the slides after this presentation, and it will be recorded. So we'll make sure that everybody gets the recording. Thank you again for spending your evening with us and for learning a little bit more about what's happening in your backyard. And we do have a series of these EIP webinars. So if you're also curious of some of the things that have been happening on the South Shore, West Shore, etc., you can find those on the TRPA YouTube channel. So let's see. I did see one more question come in. Great. Thank you so much. And this question might be for the Forest Service. This is, and we'll see, we'll see who wants to answer this one, but is anyone doing something regarding the electric bikes on trails? So I know the Forest Service does have a plan right now for bikes on dirt trails. So I'm wondering if perhaps Charles, if you're on, if you'd like to take that question. And Charles, do you mind just introducing yourself?
Sure. I can't see my own video. Am I on right now?
Yep, I see you and I can hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to throw out there on this is that we are in the midst of doing a basin-wide trails draft EA, environmental analysis. It was out for public comment last fall, and that process is ongoing. There'll be more information coming out. So I will say that e-bikes are becoming more prevalent, and as we figure out the best way to kind of manage multiple uses on our trails, it's something that we here as well as nationally are looking into, and there'll be more information to come. So that's my short answer, and we'll see if anyone else has anything to add.
Yeah, I'll see if Celeste or Andy, if you have anything that you might want to pop in specifically about what's happening with e-bikes on the North Shore.
I can chime in here. Oh. All right. I think Charles said it really well. These trails are for multiple uses, and to support sustainable transportation, it's important that we still have the trails open to e-bike users. However, we do recognize that there are concerns about the uses coexisting and being safe. So it's something that we are continuing to look at. And as community members, please do continue to speak up about it, because that helps us develop a policy.
Thank you, Celeste. Okay, we had one more question come in here. Kevin, could you talk a little bit about what the current visitation numbers are like at Sand Harbor?
I can. Can I have 1 second? I'm going to pull up the actual number so I have some real stats that I should have been prepared for.
No problem. And again, I know we're kind of coming to the end of the presentation here, but if anyone does have any other final questions, feel free to pop those in the chat.
All right, yeah, so visitation in general in 2011 from the May to September period was recorded at 409,777 visitors. In that period that I mentioned, that 2018, which was actually the peak, that had increased to 581,149 visitors. So that was that increase that we mentioned of almost 171,000 additional visitors. The park itself is designed currently at a recommended capacity of no more than 1,200 users on the beach at any one time. We estimate probably daily that number is approaching 3,000 plus, depending on the visitation for the day. Visitation is down throughout the Tahoe Basin in general post-COVID, and we're seeing similar numbers in the park, but those numbers and that increase did match a Tahoe general visitation increase that was also noted by TRPA, which is just kind of an interesting piece there. The other piece is we're recognizing that Sand Harbor is becoming busier in the winter. That was historically the park was recognized as a Memorial Day to Labor Day park and was designed around that. However, more visitors are coming to enjoy the park in the winter, and the facilities are not designed for that. And then the question, I see another question came in, what sort of permanent changes, additional facilities are being considered? A lot of that's going to focus on improving the traffic flow in the park, implementing it with the new technology, and then just ensuring that park visitors that are arriving, whether they're pedestrian on the trail system or mass transit or from the parking lots, all can access the park in a similar way. One of the realities of the park is with that 1970s design is that the parking lots themselves are probably in the most logical recreation space for that park. The design has two distinct uses: the picnic area, which is entirely underutilized, almost nobody is back there, and then the beaches, which are very popular and very crowded. So we'd like to take advantage of the fact that we have underutilized space in the park and redesign that park around so that the parking lots are not the primary focus of the park, rather the recreation experience is.
Good questions. Thank you. Okay. Well, we're coming up on the top of the hour here. And again, I just want to say thank you for sharing your afternoon with us. And we look forward to seeing you out there on the trails, on the beaches, and helping to protect Lake Tahoe in all the ways that we can collectively. So thank you all and have a great evening. And I will be sure to follow up with a recording of this presentation so that you can share it with friends, families, and others who might be interested. Have a great rest of your evening, and thank you to all of our panelists. Good night.